You are listening to Latinx America, a podcast focused on highlighting catalysts who are using, leveraging, or creating technology to help our community achieve more. With your host, Adriana Flores Ragade.
Hola, and thank you for joining us again today. A recurring issue that continues to come up during our interviews is the need for early awareness and education in order to develop a robust pipeline for diverse communities. Today's guest will share her personal journey and address how her organization is working to prepare girls to become the technologists and innovators of tomorrow. Nicole Prairie is a social justice visionary, strategist, advocate, and mentor who has committed her life to unleashing the potential of untapped communities. She's the CEO of Techbridge Girls, a nonprofit organization that excites, educates, and equips girls from low-income communities through STEM, empowering them to pursue STEM careers and achieve economic mobility and financial security as adults. Nicole is a master collaborator who is able to leverage her rich professional experiences in tech, philanthropy, and education to bring diverse groups of stakeholders together to urge social change in our communities. She's committed to removing barriers and increasing access and opportunities for all those who are often left behind, but essential to the success and growth of our society. Prior to Techbridge Girls, Nicole worked at AT&T, where she spearheaded their diversity and inclusion efforts, at the College Board, where she advised states on their college completion strategy for Black and Latinx students, and at the Women's Foundation of California, where she advanced women's economic security by supporting and awarding grants to visionary grassroots organizations. Nicole, thank you so much for being with us today. Can you talk a little bit about your personal journey and what led you to where you are today?
Well, it's so great to see you, Adriana. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great thrill to reconnect with you, so I'm super excited to have this chat with you today. My journey really comes from the experience of being the only in so many ways. When I grew up in New Jersey, my mom, single parent, really wanted to put us in a school district that was great. But that meant that she was going to have to travel really far for her job. And that also meant there wasn't going to be much diversity at that time. So for all of my secondary schooling, I was the only Black girl in my class. And not until I went to college and had, roommates and a track team to build a sisterhood that I really understood what it meant to not be the only. But that didn't last long because once I graduated college, I went to work for AT&T. And not only was I sometimes the only African-American girl, but the youngest. That also created additional layer of complexity. So for me, my journey is about what it means to be the only and the weight that holds in your own pursuit. It also talks to me about the level of confidence you have to have or you may not have being the only, and getting really clear about who you want to be, but who you are and who you represent in that path of being the only. And that's a lot of weight to carry. And I feel like what I do now at Techbridge Girls is that I'm creating a space where our girls don't have to be the only. But if they're going to be the only, they're going to be equipped to know how to navigate that with confidence and power.
And instead of calling you the only, I would call you the pace setter, because you are coming before others and others have come before you.
Yeah.
And being the only in a classroom can be daunting, at times. We know each other from the College Board,
Yes.
And you were also extremely helpful as we were launching the Univision Technology Center. So I am just happy to have you as our guest, like I mentioned earlier. You're doing a lot of work in terms of closing a gap in tech. What is the current status of girls in tech? And do you have any stats focused on girls or women of color in tech that you can share with us today?
Yes, I think the big blaring data point is that women of color, especially from underrepresented communities, make up 16% of the population. But then when you look about who is gaining STEM degrees, explicitly Latinas are only represented about 3.6% of those STEM degrees. So there is this huge disconnect between what the population is and who is actually accessing these STEM degrees and opportunities. And what we know for sure is that 80% of STEM jobs or the jobs in the future will require STEM skills. So if we are leaving populations of unrepresented communities behind, then they will not be able to tap into the economic prosperity that the STEM industry and field can actually provide, which continues to perpetuate the challenges that our communities have on a daily basis. Having access to good housing, affordable housing, great healthy food, good school systems, and that continues to keep us at a certain place within our economy if we can't figure out how to move ourselves into a new economy.
Something that you said really resonates because I've been here for about 20 years in the Bay Area, and despite some really good intentions, we haven't made the progress that needs to be made in order to have people from different communities, more diverse communities, fully participating. You mentioned tech skills, or you mentioned STEM skills. Mm-hmm. What are some of those STEM skills that you think will be crucial to the success of girls and just in general, anyone that wants to join these fields?
So science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the skills that you learn from those subjects is more than just the technical skills. So yes, you can learn about engineering design process, but what you also learn in that is risk-taking, problem-solving, critical thinking, analysis, curiosity, research. All of those skills are crucial when you think about the next generation workforce and what they're going to need to succeed, no matter if in the STEM field or not in the STEM field. Those are all transferable skills that are critical to being successful in your career. So what I think that STEM does is it's truly a vehicle. It's a vehicle that opens new doors and opportunities and possibilities that may have not been available prior.
Thanks, Nicole. Sometimes when I advocate to focus on specific communities, I often get pushback. Why should people care about this stats that you mentioned earlier, especially when we know there's a need for boys of color and others to join the same professions? Do you have to be a woman or a girl to care about this issue?
Yeah, you don't have to be a woman or a girl to care about this issue, because at Techbridge Girls, we think this is an economic issue. Mm-hmm. And so if you really care about the prosperity and the generations to come, then you don't want to leave anybody behind, no matter what color they are or what community they come from. So for us, this is bigger than the industry and diversifying it. It's about the economic prosperity that this country can tap into if they stop leaving a portion of our population behind.
It's laser-like focus, knowing that we're leaving a big portion already. Yeah. So not if we are already leaving them behind, unfortunately. How important is it to expose girls to technology early? And based on your work, is there a specific age by when you think there's exposure should happen? And also, what is the outcome of this early exposure, especially for girls?
We believe that early exposure is critical for girls, but youth in general. Because Techbridge Girls focuses explicitly on girls, we know that in elementary school is when girls start to believe that they don't like math and science. So when they're at about 6 years old, they're like, I don't like math and science. But then as they get into middle school, when they're 11, 13, not only do they say they may not like math and science, but they start to believe they're not good at math and science. And then, of course, you have all of the other pressures of being cool and smart and popular that start to play a role because we haven't done a great job as an industry and a field to rewrite the narrative that you can still be cool and popular and still like science and math. Because there is that stigma, many girls will either dumb down their abilities in their science and math so that they can be more popular in middle school, or they may literally just not be interested or just choose to opt out of science and math because they believe it's bringing this stigma that they're going to be a nerd or a geek.
But nerds and geeks are good.
Yes. I mean, we say, you can be a nerd and geek.
I was once called a geek and a nerd.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I was too. I was in full college. Everybody always talks about how geeky I was.
So, and that's one of the things. And my girl is just turned 9, and she's taking Python classes right now. She's familiar with Scratch. And just hearing her talk about, how comfortable she is with both languages, it's inspiring. It's inspiring to someone like me, a lifelong learner that looks at her and I'm like, wow, she now knows more than I do because I don't know, Python and I don't know Scratch. So when we talk about foreign languages or the languages that she knows in general, she always says, oh, I'm learning French. I know some Spanish. I'm still learning it. I know English. And she's like, and I know Python and Scratch, which I think is really cool. So
that's exactly right.
In terms of Techbridge Girls, we talked briefly about it, but what is it and what impact is it having in the future generation of tech creators?
Yeah. First and foremost, Techbridge Girls champions equity in STEM education and economic opportunity for all girls, no exceptions. Like, those are the two anchor points of what we're trying to do at Techbridge Girls because we see STEM as this amazing vehicle and economic opportunity, a transformational aspect to change their lives. So for us, we do this in two really specific ways. We serve girls in an after-school setting. We bring our programs to local schools so that our girls can experience high-quality STEM enrichment that relates to them, their experiences, their voice, and that they are for sure know that they belong in this space. And then because we know that we can't reach every single girl, we train educators across the country to really give them the capacity to deliver high quality STEM enrichment that's going to attract, retain, and engage girls so that they can too help move the needle for the larger population of girls towards STEM achievement.
That's a great train-the-trainer model so you can scale your impact. Speaking of impact, and we know partnerships make a huge difference when it comes to impact, can you share some examples of some of the partnerships that you have forged and why they have been so successful?
Techbridge Girls has been a partner with Chevron for over 10 years, and they've invested over $1 million to this organization. But what I want to say about this partnership is it's more than just a check for us. They truly sit down as strategic partners as one to be able to learn from what we're experiencing on the ground and the connections that we have with our girls in the community in the field. But then it's also great to have them at the seat because then we can ensure that our curriculum, our program is relevant to what they are seeking for their next generation workforce. And the combined strengths of both of us can create some extremely impactful transformation for our girls and for our organizations collectively. So they can be able to right now recruit a Techbridge girl into Chevron, which we actually have right now.
Pipeline.
And pipeline pathway, exactly. And then we can make sure that our curriculum is reflecting what they need in their workforce so that when they get that Techbridge girl, they're already hitting the ground running.
One of the things that I often heard was that there was a disconnect between what higher ed expected and what they were getting. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking, oh, wow, there's a connection. there are jobs there, and these are the skill sets, and this is what you're putting together to support that pipeline. Great. What are some of the challenges that you face in making inroads, and how can people listening support your efforts?
So some of the challenges that, of course, any nonprofit has is when you have a good thing, how do you scale it? So Techbridge Girls has been around for 18 years. We've been able to see the impact of our programming by the fact that we have a young woman, Eileen Iniguez, who started with us in middle school, graduated UC Berkeley with a data science degree, and now is at Chevron in their IT rotational program full time. You know, so East Oakland Latina who now is in San Ramon making a great salary
which
at Chevron.
Many parents care about.
Which many parents care about at Chevron. And then we also have other data. You know, we know our girls are graduating at higher rates. We know that they're enrolling in AP courses at higher rates. They're more likely to enroll into a STEM major in their post-secondary experience. So we know our program works. The question always is, how do we scale it? How do we figure out how to get more girls access to these resources, to these supports, to this high quality curriculum? And that always is a challenge because most of our partners and funders, just in generally putting my philanthropy hat back on, oftentimes go straight to the program, you know, fund the program. But there is a host of things that need to support a program: infrastructure, systems, technology,
rent,
especially
in the Bay Area.
Yes, right. Salary, so that, you know, we walk the talk at Techbridge Girls. Like, if we're trying to move our young girls that we serve to a path of economic mobility, I can't be a hypocrite and not make sure that my staff is making a living wage, right? And so we really try to think about all of the things that propels us to be successful in programming, but often those things are not funded. So we're always looking at how can we increase our general operating support resources? How can we get more individual donors to support Techbridge Girls? How do we partner with organizations that may already have some of these infrastructures that we don't have, but we can partner with them to elevate and amplify what we need so that we can continue to do this great work? So those are the ways that we're always looking about how we assess partners and how we're trying to find new resources to come into the organization.
So if anyone listening is interested in supporting, whether it's monetarily or, you know, volunteering or providing a connection, they should go to your website or find you somewhere on LinkedIn and let you know that they're interested in supporting your efforts?
Absolutely. We're techbridgegirls.org. We're on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you can always find me, Nicole with a K, Collins Prairie. It kind of makes it easy because my mom wanted to be extra when I was younger to put a K in my name, but Nikole. I'm on Twitter, and my email is also on our website. So I'm extremely accessible because I want to make sure that, number one, any girl that sees a African-American CEO can contact her at any time she wants to learn about my journey or to be able to be motivated about her journey, how she wants to be a CEO. But also, if there's opportunities where partners feel that there's synergies with us, we don't want there to be any barrier for you to get in contact with Techbridge Girls.
Thank you, Nicole. You mentioned the story of the young woman from that's now working in San Ramon from Oakland. Do you have any other stories? Because sometimes, you know, storytelling makes such a big difference, and it's so powerful in terms of, I think, changing the narrative for our community. Do you have any other stories that you'd like to share about how maybe a student or a family, through the work that you guys are doing, now has, you know, a different trajectory?
Well, there's so many stories, and to try to find one, but, I think about, we have a current student who's in college right now, studying data science. Her name is Malette. And, she has a really interesting story because she was adopted and came into our program kind of very shy and not necessarily that interested into STEM, but her parents were kind of pushing her into STEM, but she really didn't feel like she belonged, and of course feeling a little bit like an outsider. And so she continued to be part of Techbridge Girls over the years, and now she's at I can't remember if it's UC Berkeley or UCSF, but one of them, she's studying a STEM degree. She continues to come back to our classrooms to be a role model for our current girls in middle school. She was part of our big Changemakers showcase where she gave us the idea of all the staff to dress up like STEM women, so that maybe we could, in the same way of our girls getting to know us as individuals as staff, they also were learning about maybe women in STEM that they had never thought about. So, these are the type of stories that we can go on and on about in our organization that we've seen, and we are so excited about the success and the coming of their own. And I think that's the greatest gift, if anything, that Techbridge Girls can give, is that when girls can unlock their own potential, they can brush off their own power that's already inside of them. I mean, many of us often think that our girls are coming from a place of deficit, and we don't come from that place. Like, every walk that they've had, every experience that they have, every, failure that they have has been part of what makes them great. And we like to elevate that and amplify that so that they can see that as an asset versus a deficit.
Asset-based thinking, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I wanted to mention is that when we think of girls, sometimes we think poor girls, but many of them have already built up confidence in themselves. We just want to give them that exposure so they can also have confidence in areas that are unfamiliar to them. Because even if you're like the most confident person in the world, if you go into a room or if you try to study something new, you're going to be a little intimidated. So how do they keep their confidence level up, especially, as you mentioned, during some of those years when they could be vulnerable?
Well, I think it starts with having really good support systems around them. So for us, our program managers and staff are amazing. I think about our program managers that are in the classroom every single day, supporting our girls, pouring into their spirits and exciting them about STEM. We have role models that come into the classroom that tell their story and their journeys and give them a blink of possibilities of what their futures could be. They get to go to actual corporations and see what is happening, like how they can actually apply what they're learning in their after-school program into real-world application. And so I think those are really critical in helping increase the confidence. But what we also teach in Techbridge Girls is being okay with failure. And failure is a critical part of the process, that once individuals get okay with failure, that automatically starts to raise confidence because you see your resiliency and your perseverance and all of those elements. So the more time that we fail, we celebrate that, right? So that girls know that that is okay, and that does not make you less than because it didn't work that first time. But if you keep trying, you'll definitely get there. Or even if you don't get there, there was a lesson learned in that process that built you up to a different level. And we also teach growth mindset. So that is a big part of our pedagogy and philosophy at Techbridge Girls. And so even if our girls don't get it the first time, we look at it as just like if you weren't good at a sport or good at playing music or good at artwork at the very first time you picked up that pen or dribbled that ball, right? That over time with practice, you can get better. So as long as you have that mindset, then that also gives you the confidence to keep trying and know that, yes, I might not be there today, but that doesn't mean that's where I'm going to stay.
Thank you, Nicole. In terms of additional resources, I know that not every school district is blessed to have, the opportunity to have your program there. How can parents advocate to bring Techbridge Girls to their specific schools or school districts? And if in the process, if they want to provide additional resources to their children, what are some of those resources?
Sure. So if you want to bring Techbridge Girls into your school, the first thing is to advocate for us at the district level, because we know that the district really has the resources and the influence to try to connect us with the schools that are in dire need of high quality STEM enrichment programming. And they can be a partner to ensure that we are going to the schools with the best fit of what we offer. Another thing is that we really try to not only think about having Techbridge Girls in the school, but is there a possibility to help the district with improving the capacity of their educators? So Techbridge Girls, even if you can't have our explicit program, we're here to help increase and elevate the capacity of your educators, no matter if it's in school or out of school. We have the ability to do both, and we have done both. So if you're not able to bring a program there, we also want to be able to be a resource to help the capacity of your educators to deliver high quality STEM enrichment. If it is about getting your educators with an increased capacity so that they can retain and engage girls within your current STEM enrichment programming, we can do that as well.
Thank you. And in terms of resources that for those that don't have the programs and haven't gone through the advocacy process yet?
Well, families are such a critical piece of our work, and we've been really working over the last, over a decade, to find out where are the ways in which we can demystify this thing called STEM for our families. Because the worst thing that we could do is get our girls super hyped, super excited about STEM that one day a week for 2 hours that day, and then they go home the rest of the week and mom and dad are like poo-pooing on it. Right? And not consciously. Sometimes it's not something that parents are even thinking of. I always think about one of our stories with one of our girls that she tells about her dad. Her dad was outside working on the car, and she came out to try to help him, and he was like, "No, sweetie, go back and help your mom," where that kind of subconsciousness perpetuates these stereotypes about girls not being able to help in the garage and tinker with the car versus you need to be in the house with your mom, right? And so what we try to do, and what we do have, are resources on our website. It's an actual series of resources called Family Affair, and we give you things, activities that you can have within your own household around STEM. It talks about why STEM is important to encourage for your daughters or your girls in your family to pursue. And it also kind of demystifies that this STEM thing is only for the privileged few, but it's actually for all of us. And to be very honest, we all have been doing STEM in some way. We've all been tinkering and making in some way. I mean, I grew up in a single parent household. My mom didn't have money every time my toy broke, so we fixed it in the house. I mean, that is what tinkering and what STEM is about. When you have, you couldn't get that cool skateboard, but you made it out on your own, right? Like that is what you learn in STEM. And so I also want us as a larger field to not discount the everyday, what we call struggle, is how we equate what we do around STEM, because most of our communities have been doing STEM before it became this popular thing that everybody wants to talk about. We've been tinkering, we've been making, we've been, utilizing the principles around science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in our everyday lives. Now we just have to honor and amplify that and bring them into the narrative as well.
It makes me think of ingenuity and resiliency, and those are two key things that our communities of color are experts on. I like to learn from other people, and every time I sit down and have these kinds of interviews, I learn from someone. Who do you follow on social media? Who should we consider following also on social media, and why?
So there's so many interesting and amazing people, especially women and women of color, doing awesome things. And what I have noticed in my own following that I've been attractive to are individuals that are doing things that are filling a gap. When you think about something like, man, I wish that we had that, right? Like, or I wish that something was created for me, or I wish my voice was more prevalent in this conversation. So I often get attracted to women, especially women entrepreneurs that are filling those gaps or amplifying that voice. So one young woman, I'm assuming she's young, but she looks.
Let's just say yes.
Is Morgan Devon. She is the CEO of Blavity. It's a online Black voice publication, and what's so great about why I like reading the stories is, one, that she gets the stories from the community. It sounds the voice and what you say in your head as a Black woman when you see something on TV, or as a person of color in a community, like I feel like she funnels that voice through her media stream, right? Through her Twitter or through her publications. And that excites me, right? Because, you always have these like conversations in your head or your girlfriends, and you like, what are they doing? And you just want to like, why does not anybody else amplify that voice or that perspective? And I feel like she's doing a really great job at that. And then I have a really, a good girlfriend from when I lived back east. She's actually a sorority sister. Her name is Regina Gwynn, and she started this with, I think, a few other investors too, this company called Tres Noir. And it literally is a delivery service for Black hair. So she is a professional woman, and she has all these professional friends, and like me, we're always traveling. You have all of these events or activities, and if you're going back to back, I was on the road for 3 weeks, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get my hair done, right? And you only trust the one stylist that you've had for 10 years, right? And she has to be available on that one slot of time that you have before your next trip. And oftentimes that doesn't always work. So she and her partners have created this kind of like a delivery service where you can pick up the phone no matter, there's certain places that it's in right now before it blows up, and I'm sure it's going to blow up any day. But you can be in certain parts of the country, and stylists can come to your hotel, do your hair, and you are ready to go. And so the fact that there's this type of service, and these are not, this is not for an elite type of group, right? This is for your normal, professional women of color that just need to get their hair zhuzhed up between all of their traveling.
It's a concierge service.
Yeah.
So it's not a kit. It's a concierge service, which I think it's great. And anyone can use. It's accessible to anyone.
Yes.
So I would consider that a treat because you have experts that are coming to your aid when you need it the most.
Right. And then you don't have to be like, if many of you know this moment where you're sitting in a chair and you're like, oh my God, do they know how to do my hair? It's very frightening.
Oh, no, trust me. I was recently in Southern California visiting my family, and I went to Doña Berta, who has been doing my hair for 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, I remember you. I didn't really want to do your wedding when you were getting married because it was so far away. But, I had promised you already when I did your hair for your first communion. And so I knew I had to do it. And she's like family now. Mm-hmm. So we have these conversations. And she's like, but, it ended up, turning great. And I'm glad. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't have trusted anyone else with my hair. Especially on my wedding day, Doña Berta. What were you even thinking? You're stressing me out, and this happened like 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. So, yeah, I completely understand, and I hope your friend is really successful. Yeah. So let's go back to influencers. Sure. Who has influenced you the most, either professionally or personally, and why?
I think the biggest influence that I have, of course, is my mom. I know that some people just always default to that. But when I think about the woman my mother is, and the sacrifice that she made for me and my sister, and the promise and possibilities that she created even in times of less than. I just think that she was the greatest role model to teach you perseverance, resiliency, compassion, hard work, leadership. So I just literally always go back to when I think about some of the traits that I bring to my personal or professional career. They all started based on what I saw through my mom. And that, to me, is the gift that continues to keep giving, because I continue to see her now where she is now the primary caregiver for my grandparents, and how she is sacrificing her life again to make sure two other people are living the best rest of their lives. And she's just an amazing woman, and when she speaks, people listen. And she's smart as a whip, even though when she used to try to help me with my homework, I just didn't have the patience for it. But she is so smart, and I should have listened to her, because maybe then my teacher wouldn't have told me I wasn't good at math. But yeah, so she has just been a total matriarch of our family, and has given me such the standard of what a strong woman that has love and compassion and empathy in her heart leads with and looks like.
She sounds like a great woman.
She is.
A wonderful mom. In that same vein, as we look at the past, let's look at the future. What is next for you? What's your next big project, campaign, or just in general, what's in the future for you?
So Techbridge Girls is a blessing to me. Every day I wake up like this is a gift that was given to me with overflow. And so we are in that midst of overflow. There's so many new opportunities on our horizons. We're in the midst of getting ready to exponentially grow our reach across the country and be able to serve tens of thousands of girls. We have a really clear vision that we want to serve 1 million girls by 2030, and we understand what it's going to take to get there. So we are positioning and posturing ourselves with partners and seeking the resources and opportunities to be on that path, because we really do believe in every one of our staff members and in myself too. This is not a job for us. This is to the core of who we are and what we believe so deeply about. And so we don't want to leave any girl behind. And so we see this bigger vision in service to making sure we're not leaving any girl behind.
Thanks, Nicole. And it's been such a treat to have you today. Jim Montoya, who you know from College Board when we worked there together, always said that you should always be kind to people and treat people the way that they should be treated, because you never know when you're going to run into them. And when I ran into you in the Bay Area, I was just so happy to see you, but I'm just so proud of what you're doing and the impact that you're having in this world, especially as a mother of a young girl of color. That will someday, I hope, will be in the tech world and making a difference. But you're making a big difference every day. So I appreciate you and thank you for joining me. And I'm sure we will continue a conversation.
Thank you, Adriana, and thank you so much for this opportunity. What I believe in is relationships and connections are so important, and I just remember your compassion and dedication to the work that we did at the College Board. So I'm just so excited that our paths were able to cross again and hopefully continue to do some amazing stuff together even more.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Based on the conversation today, here are some key takeaways and action items. Become an advocate for the good work of organizations like Techbridge Girls. Early awareness makes a big difference in boosting confidence and helping girls and youth in general to see themselves in STEM careers. So volunteer at your local elementary during STEM night, or find other ways to use your voice to amplify the message and increase awareness amongst under-resourced communities. Finally, be strategic and thoughtful about the partnerships you develop. Through the partnership with Chevron, Techbridge Girls have been able to scale their impact and really develop an effective pipeline partnership informed by industry needs. So use that as a model. Once again, thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed learning about the good work of Techbridge Girls and that you're inspired to volunteer or partner with organizations focused on increasing gender diversity and closing the economic gap for underserved communities.
Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Latinx America and on Twitter at America Latinx, or email any questions or ideas to latinxamerica@gmail.com. Gracias y hasta la próxima semana.